Welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're looking at something that honestly seems super simple on the surface, but hides a totally brilliant underlying structure. We're breaking down a classic counting journey. We're going to explore exactly how a seemingly basic counting book uses a really carefully crafted narrative to teach foundational numbers and mathematical sequencing. You know, it's not just about rote memorization, right? It's about building a world that a learner actually wants to explore.
So I've got to ask you, are you ready to count to 10 on a Meadow adventure? I want you to step right into our protagonist Benji's world today. Just imagine it, stepping straight out of a cozy underground burrow right as this vibrant sunrise hits the horizon. This isn't just a boring list of numbers. It's a beautifully guided walk through a living ecosystem. And hey, you're coming right along with us.
Well, everything has to start somewhere, right? And our journey kicks off with a number 1. This is the very first step in our chronological timeline. Benji wakes up, he feels the energy of a brand new day, and hops right out into the bright morning sunshine to get his adventure started.
And this brilliantly illustrates how you ground a reader at the very beginning of a journey. By setting the scene with exactly one warm yellow sun shining down and pairing it with Benji's own one twitchy pink nose sniffing the morning air, the story just perfectly centers the mathematical journey. It creates this singular, focused moment of calm before the whole wider world of the meadow expands around him.
From that singular starting point, we flow right down the dirt trails straight to the number 2. Benji's on the move, and he makes his very first botanical encounter of the day. The imagery here is just so deliberate and peaceful. 2 white daisies blooming side by side, swaying softly. This gently eases the reader into the concept of growing numbers. You know, we aren't overwhelming the senses just yet. We're simply taking a second to observe quiet, stationary nature before the meadow gets truly lively. But wait, the energy is about to pick up. We're transitioning now to the number 3, following Benji over to the edge of a cool, clear pond. We want to see who exactly is splashing around in that water. Okay, let's dive into this, because the narrative shift here is fantastic. We go from those softly swaying flowers to 3 green frogs that are absolutely ready to leap. The story is introducing active, dynamic creatures just as our counting numbers begin to escalate. The math is quite literally gaining momentum alongside the characters in the story. And that momentum carries us right to the number 4. A sweet smell is drifting over from a tall bush nearby, and Benji's twitchy little nose leads him to uncover some incredibly colorful flying visitors. With these 4 yellow butterflies fluttering gently around the leaves, take note of the growing complexity of this meadow ecosystem. We've moved from the ground to the water and now up into the air. This variety perfectly captures a young learner's attention, giving them entirely new shapes and movements to associate with the number 4. We continue looking upward, reaching the number 5. Benji spots the branches of a tall oak tree, where some very busy animals are wrapped up in a high-speed game of tag. I absolutely love the frantic, scampering energy of this scene. 5 brown squirrels darting up and down the trunk of a tree. This high-energy visual marks the exact midpoint of Benji's counting journey. The meadow is now fully awake and bustling with life, which perfectly matches the milestone of reaching the halfway mark to 10. Let's just take a quick pause here to anchor Benji's day. The steady escalation of our counting numbers perfectly mirrors the chronological progression of a single day. Think about it. The low numbers align with the gentle morning waking up in the sunshine. The middle, active numbers, represent the bustling afternoon playing in the meadow. And as we're going to see in a bit, the final numbers will guide us right into the evening as Benji heads home. The mathematical structure is just brilliantly tied to the natural passage of time. Moving into the second half of our journey, we arrive at the number 6. The story smartly shifts focus away from the frantic animals and brings us back down to the physical path itself as Benji hops along toward the garden. Let's move to and see how this builds a really strong sense of direction. We've got 6 round gray stones lining the path in a straight row. After the chaotic scampering of the squirrels, these highly orderly stones serve to ground the reader. They visually and narratively guide our hero and the learner closer to his ultimate goal with clear, sequential steps. Guided by that path, we reach the number 7. Benji stops by a large, prominent green leaf to spot some tiny, crawling insects making their way across. Notice the specific verb used here, marched. 7 red ladybugs marching one after another. This strict one after another marching of the bugs is definitely no accident. It perfectly matches the orderly, sequential march of our counting numbers. It subtly reinforces the whole idea of counting one by one in a rigid sequence.
And that march leads us straight to the number 8. Benji has finally arrived at the very edge of the farmer's vegetable garden, and he's peeking excitedly through the wooden slats. This creates a really fantastic mini narrative of anticipation. We've got 8 wooden fence posts standing tall in a straight line. These posts represent the final, formidable protective barrier standing between our hero and his ultimate prize. The tension is building, well, at least as much tension as you can actually have in a vegetable garden, as we count down to the number 10. He makes it past the barrier to the number 9. Looking closely into the rich garden dirt, Benji uncovers his absolute favorite snack growing right there in the ground. This is the climax of the book. 9 orange carrots poking out of the soil. This celebrates the peak of Benji's physical quest as he finally claims his prized carrots at the number 9. It provides a massive emotional and narrative payoff right before we reach the very end of our counting sequence. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is when we take a step back and analyze the actual data of Benji's journey. Across the 10 chapters, the author has created a perfectly balanced ecosystem for the learner to engage with. We've got 4 encounters with animals, 4 encounters with plants and natural elements, and 2 encounters with physical objects. This variety ensures the reader's brain stays totally engaged by constantly switching up the categories of things they're counting. And finally, we reach our destination, the number 10. We begin to wind down this explanation just as the afternoon sun starts to sink low in the sky, and Benji, with a full tummy, hops happily back down the trail toward home. So the crucial point is how beautifully this story structures its ending against its beginning. The contrast is just stunning. At the very start, we had the bright, solitary energy of one warm yellow sun. Now, at the end, we have the tranquil, drifting peace of 10 fluffy white clouds in the evening sky. It's a gorgeous visual and numerical contrast that serves as the perfect bookends to our hero's daytime journey. Which leaves us with a bigger thought to ponder as we wrap up. If a simple counting book about a rabbit in a meadow can weave such a cohesive, structured, and frankly mathematical narrative, how can simple stories help us find the beautiful, sequential patterns in our own daily walks? Think about it. Storytelling is what gives structure, meaning, and just a little touch of magic to the raw data of our everyday world. Keep your eyes open for those patterns today.